Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Hearthstone. So, what do we need to do? We need to play Shaman cards still, but let's take a little bit of a break from that and let's play some Hunter cards. We don't need to do the same thing. We'll play Secrets. I think is a better one to play than Beasts because some of the Beasts aren't actually Hunter cards. I hope that's right. We've still got a lot to talk about, but I'm not certain I'm going to get all these quests done by the time I'm out of things to cover. And I'm pretty consistently trying to stay to just playing when I have something to talk about. I don't want to get boring and just sit here in silence and play. If people just want to watch me play Hearthstone and not listen to me, then they can always mute me, they can always play a podcast, they can always play music, and
job's done.
Or do whatever they want to do. And so that can be satisfied, that desire can be satisfied. And so my audience then should be for people who actually do want to listen to me, which hopefully is more people. After an opposing hero power is used, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. I'll do that, sure. So this story was kind of jaw-dropping. Psychonauts 2 is on Fig, where it can be people can invest in it. And it's being made by Double Fine, the guy who made Psychonauts 1 runs Double Fine. I'm not sure Psychonauts 1 particularly actually was a Double Fine production, or if it was the company before that that made Psychonauts 1. But instead of Double Fine publishing their own game, which they have done, Double Fine is a game publisher. I am 99.9% certain of this. That they on Steam have published their own games. They've published their own games in other places. Sega published The Cave, and that puts a little bit of a different issue.
Job's done.
To it, but for The Cave, but that's the only game really. Broken Age was published by Double Fine, so they've published their own games. So it's really weird when I see in the news that Starbreeze Studios to publish Psychonauts 2. I'm like, why? Why would you not publish your own game? And it doesn't make any sense until it came out a little bit later that they are to be a major investor, and I'm not sure if they invested through Fig or if they invested separately. I would heavily suspect that they invested separately in the game, to the tune of, I believe, $8 million. So $8 million more is now being put into Psychonauts 2, and Psychonauts 2 is in the middle of development. I saw they showed some footage of it. It looks a lot better than the PSVR graphics. There's still kind of an issue, I think, I would say, with the way certain things are animated, because it's a very unique animation style. But it does definitely look better than the PSVR Rhombus of Reason, or whatever that was called. What I like, as someone who hasn't played Psychonauts 1 and needs to play it before Psychonauts 2 comes out, that's one of those games that I need to cover before I start moving further before. Well, I need to play it before Psychonauts 2 comes out, and there's a danger that Psychonauts 2 is going to come out, and they're going to sneakily eliminate it. Well, no, I'm afraid they're going to sneakily release it, and then I wouldn't have recorded Psychonauts 1, so that's one of the games on the list. The list and the schedule is doing all right now. I'm playing a game called Hector that is a very, very British point-and-click adventure game that was released by Telltale. I hope it finishes well. It's kind of a dirty jokes type game too, and I'm fine with that. But it's nice to have a little bit something different. We went from Axel and Pixel, which I thought was going to be kind of a kid-friendly, sort of a kid-friendly point-and-click adventure game. Then it turned out it really wasn't a kid-friendly point-and-click adventure game. It was just kind of a badly made point-and-click adventure game, which that's sometimes an easy mistake to make, particularly if you haven't played the game before you purchase it, obviously, and you're just looking at screenshots.
Let the
so
begin.
So for all of that, it's I'm covering something else, which I'm happy to cover something else before I get back to Broken Sword 3. I'm hoping Hector doesn't turn out to be too long, though. If Axel and Pixel and Hector episode 1, 2, and 3 take 2 months, that would be a little bit too long. But I seriously doubt it. I imagine it's going to be closer to something like Bone, which was kind of a not really finished product that they made. Moving on to the next story. The next Hearthstone expansion is supposed to be called The Lost Secrets of Ugug something. According to a rumor, it's supposed to be centered around dinosaurs. We already have a decent amount of dinosaurs in the game already. So if it's going to elevate current dinosaurs to their own class in the same way that we have beasts, that would be cool. But there also needs to be kind of a new established,
I can ease your pain.
like, trick I think that dinosaurs do. Like, we would need cards in the game that specifically that specifically centered around dinosaurs, gave them +1/+1, gave them charge, gave them some kind of ferocity ability. If they use the phrase ferocious, which would be a good phrase for dinosaurs, and that meant something and did something, that would be kind of cool. Let's see, bear trap, cat trap,
Run away.
and attack. Otherwise, I don't know what you do to the dinosaurs. The fact that it has secrets in the name implies that we're gonna see a lot more secrets, which not a terrible idea. If the game decided to add a lot more secrets, we're kind of bored with secrets in the Hunter, and we've seen them all. So if they decide to double the number of secrets for each character, that would be cool. They'd have to think kind of hard about that to figure out what would happen and what would occur. If they wanted to do something really crazy, where they what would you? I'd have like
fell off the truck.
turn the dinosaurs into birds. if they were going to play up that idea, that would be cool. If they were going to have it where the dinosaurs turned into dragons, that kind of makes a little less sense. If they were going to have more eggs that hatched into dinosaurs, that would be kind of cool. There is a slight problem with both of those suggestions, though, because it is just the same suggestions I'm making right now. It is also the same suggestions you could do for dragons.
They fell off a truck.
No look safe. Run away.
A demo.
So, yeah, there's definitely definitely just speculation now as far as the next expansion. People sound like they were getting a little bit bored with Hearthstone. In fact, the person they had on Night Attack, the Night Attack that just plugged me, which is that the right phrase? They shouted me out. Maybe I should use that phrase. They had a guy on that was talking about how he was bored with Hearthstone's meta deck. I'm not into any of the meta deck stuff, but I could see how people who play high level Hearthstone trying to get up the ladder are gonna just constantly get bored with it and want changes, and it's just this. It's gonna be this constant desire for change that Blizzard's gonna have to either satisfy or say forget it. We can't accommodate your desires. We'll change it a little bit less. Right now, the only thing that is stopping me from really wanting an expansion is the fact that I only have 6,000 gold, and the only reason I have 6,000 gold and maybe not 6,500 gold is because I started doing arenas again. So by giving me a break so I could earn more gold, they've let me do arena rounds, and I've been enjoying that. Crowdfunding, moving on to the next story. Crowdfunding for video games was way down in 2016. I see this as an incredibly good thing. Let's go back here. We still need 18 hunter cards to play. Let's keep playing. Maybe we'll get up to rank 19 or 18 this month. That would be nice. Yeah. Great thing that crowdfunding is down. Real world board games still kind of high as far as crowdfunding, but I think there's probably a decently higher percentage of possibility of actually getting that board game, or at the very least getting something that you could craft after. Like, see, I'm thinking if you were going to make a 3D board game and you could not make a finished product, at the very least you would have the rules written, and you probably have the rules written already. You would have the ideas for all the figures, all the ideas for the cardboard, the ideas for the box. All of that art, at least in some way, would be close to completion before you even started the Kickstarter. So people backing that, at the very least, you could say, well, I couldn't actually make the final product, but here's all the schematics, here's the rules, here's what you could make, here's how you could change Dungeons and Dragons into this game. If you have this piece from this piece and this piece from that piece. In fact, I recently saw an article of just what to do to change Dungeons and Dragons Monsters Manual Volume 6 or whatever the most recent one is, to play a Skyrim-like game, to play a Mass Effect-like game, to play an Uncharted-like game. I imagine it's not too difficult to at least get halfway there. But in comparison to actual video games, there's so much work and so much time extra. More, I think you need to put into it. At least 2 years in production in a video game is what I feel any good game, whether it's a small indie game or a AAA title, needs at least 2 years of being worked on in secret, preferably just to get polished, just to get it to work well. I've seen too many bad games that don't do that. Speaking of bad games, I don't know if I wrote this down, but TT Games is hiring both senior and junior game mechanic programmers. So TT Games makes the Lego games, and there is a small bit of me that thought that maybe they were never going to make another game because they have Lego Dimensions and that was just going to be it. So I was very surprised to see that they're hiring. I mean, I haven't seen them ever hire before, and that they're looking for a game mechanics programmer tells me maybe they're gonna improve their engine and get it working, and maybe make an entirely new style of game. Even that would be amazing. But
What?
it's
They fell off
certainly
the truck.
a lot of speculation there as far as but they are hiring, and so that says a lot. That tells me that Lego Dimensions isn't the end all of be all, that Lego World isn't going to be the last thing they ever release, or Lego City. In a lot of ways, this also gives more footing for the belief that they may just start to release Lego games without the subtitle of being a licensed property more. So we'll see like Lego City Undercover, we'll see Lego Fire Department, Lego Ninjago. I just saw that there was a Ninjago movie coming out. I kind of thought we'd see another Lego Batman or a Lego Batman movie game, but the Lego Batman movie video game, but maybe not, because they've already done 3 Lego Batman games and they're pretty good actually. So maybe they just don't want to spit out a garbage game like they spit out the Lego movie video game, which was kind of garbage, which would be a good choice on their part. Let's see. So I'm looking forward to seeing what TT Games can make. Although I really have no right to be looking forward to it, for as badly as they've treated me with the PC ports of these games, they are bad. A lot of them are unplayably bad, and maybe it's just my PC, maybe it's not, but I mean, all I can say is my experience was not fun with it. Let's see. This one, and then this one. A YouTuber has pleaded guilty. In fact, I think it was 2 YouTubers when all is said and done, to FIFA gambling, promoting a library. The real charges was promoting a lottery. It's not illegal in the UK to promote a library, although depending on the library it might actually be. Advertising unlawful gambling and inciting children to gamble were the 3 charges, and they're going to pay a hefty fine for that. That he was promoting a site that he either owned or had an investment in or a stake in.
Oh dear.
So he was fraudulently benefiting from it too, but I guess that didn't even come into it. And we've seen this happen with some other YouTubers, and it was a much bigger deal with the other YouTubers for Counter-Strike Go skins. Counter-Strike skins, maybe not Counter-Strike Go, but And nothing has come about that. And since those people are American, committing fraud and screwing over the little man is kind of tolerated a little bit more in America than it is in the UK. So I wouldn't be surprised if no case even comes about from that.
A demo.
Or if it takes forever for that to happen. So, but at least one YouTuber has learned that some countries don't allow that kind of shenanigans. And that is just for me yet another reminder to always be on the straight and narrow, and probably never go down the hashtag sponsored thing. I see a lot of things that are sponsored content, and it's just awful, and it really makes me want to never watch videos of that YouTuber ever again. It's just not something that I find tasteful anymore, and so I seriously doubt I would do that. I'd really rather my channel fail than have sponsored content, or even get into contracts for new games to get them early. Like, I don't trust early content anymore either. If somebody has an early look on a game, I just assume that they've signed some contract to only say nice things about it. So I'm still not willing to trust it. And that kind of puts the whole review copy. It puts the whole review copy question in a weird position, because while I would kind of like for the big video game reviews to get review copies, even though that actually only hurts me because I know I probably will never get review copies. On the other hand, I kind of don't, because it's very difficult to see the difference between somebody who got a review copy and did not agree to say anything at all, and the person who got a review copy and agreed or was known to say something very positive. So if nobody has review copies and the audience just learned not to pre-order and wait until all the reviews from all of the people who now have no motivation or reason which they would say be dishonest or give a glowing review to a game that doesn't deserve a glowing review, if everybody just waited for the reviews that are trustworthy, that'd be nice. But that's asking the world to change quite a lot. Moving on to the next story, the Double Fine boss, I forget his name now, Tim...
You gotta pay up.
It's Tim something, but he calls himself Tim of Legend on Twitter, and I looked at his profile and he literally doesn't have his last name listed. So thanks for helping me fact check, Tim. Your Twitter should be a little bit more professional than that, so people can get your name spelled right at least. I think his name's Tim Schafer. Yeah. He pulled his back, and now he has a standing desk and a bunch of muscle relaxants, which isn't really much of a news, but art has been created for much less. Major injuries and then the corresponding pain pills and medications that people are on has changed the mindset of quite a few artists. I think one of those arguments, and I may be making all of this up, but I think not R.L. Stein, but the other guy, Stephen King, was doing a lot of alcohol and drugs in his younger days, and people have made arguments that once he sobered up, his books weren't as good. And there certainly was a lot of musicians and a lot of artists who sacrificed their own health to that same end, and certainly entire styles of rock were affected by the use of drugs. The they were doing so much cocaine that it was literally changing the eardrums of some of the rockers in the 80s, and they would get higher and higher pitched singing because they were hearing the world differently. This is all terrible arguments. But since something bad did happen to Tim Schafer, maybe it will give him maybe something good will happen. Maybe it'll give him an inspiration. To get to the anime example of this is Neon Genesis Evangelion. It was totally affected by the creator being in a severe depression, and arguably years later, when he wasn't severely depressed and he went back to it, he's made worse versions of it in remakes. Salvador Dali, great example. Salvador Dali is probably crazy. That was not the person I was going to talk about, though. I didn't mean to say Salvador Dali. I meant to say Monet, the one that cut off his ear. Is that Monet? Yeah. Well, the guy that cut off his ear and painted a lot of paintings, he clearly suffered terribly from his depression, but because of it, in some parts, I assume he also was a great artist. It is very commonly believed that art comes from pain. So, or a lot of art at least comes from pain. One would hope that some of it comes from other sources like happiness, but maybe not. So, it seems like a kind of non-story, but I'm definitely stretching it into a bigger story in my head. Similarly, Kojima is not into making horror games anymore because they scare him, he says. Whatever Kojima says one day could be different the next, because I think he's kind of off the wall and changes his minds all the time. But like, he's making Death Stranding, and if it's not gonna be a horror game or have some horror elements, then I have kind of no idea what it is gonna be, which is probably true for everybody, as none of us know exactly what it's gonna be.
Job's done.
Why did this one not attack, or did it attack? Oh yeah, I used it to kill the other guy.
Let's make magic.
So this will be our last recording. But we've got some more time on this game. I hopped into a game I probably shouldn't have. Moving on. Valve fixed an XML exploit in their website. Apparently, at some point there, for a short period of time, you could have people could have used exploits to change several things on people's accounts on Steam. So they were saying, don't go to the Steam profile page of somebody else, don't go to your own profile page, kind of just stay off the profile Steam website completely. And I think they fixed it rather quickly, and then that was that. It sounded like it probably could cost you some money if you're not careful, but I'm glad it's all fixed. See, the weird thing is I need to do another recording, and I've only got a few more things to talk about. So I'm just gonna put down my list, my boogie board, my digital whiteboard gadget I have that is too small actually. I would really like to get a teleprompter. I don't know how you would get a teleprompter or what the teleprompter software looks like or how to use it, but I would love one of those just right in front of me with a list going in circles. Let's see, death rattle summon this guy, or 1 minute whenever you cast a 1 mana spell. Let's do this, and then the turn. But yeah, I guess we'll just go for the rest of this recording and play in silence. Not total silence, but just not covering any new topics. So I've been covering Hector. Yeah, this is me playing in silence. I immediately start talking about something else. That's what I mean when I say play. I mean I'm not going to cover any topic. I started playing Hector, which is this point and click. Very, very British game that I think Telltale just published, really, or only helped them. And it's surprising that there isn't another Hector game, or there aren't any British games like this, because this is like a corrupt cop comedy thing, kind of like Sam and Max, but more British than that, and there's definitely some British terms in it that are a little, like, I don't know what the terms are even, and I've watched a lot of British comedies and British shows, so I'm a pretty big fan of it. Yeah, I imagine since Jim Sterling is actually from Britain, he would know it. Know everything they're talking about, but in an odd way, I guess there isn't a very big UK video game developing like industry. Like, it doesn't seem like that's the case, because there's all sorts of games and entertainment there that could have been made. Maybe it is that just the government doesn't care about video games. I mean, if they do care about video games in the UK, it's probably just to censor them, like they want to censor everything else. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a BBC publishing for video games. I know there's a Doctor Who game that came out with no thoroughfare, and we have some Sherlock Holmes games, but are those really, is that published by a British publisher, or is that just somebody who is doing Sherlock Holmes games? I did want to play that new one, The Devil's Daughter, but it didn't get great reviews, and the older ones are confirmed as being pretty awful. There's really a lot of interesting entertainment that could be turned into video games if they covered it. There should almost certainly be a Doctor Who video game coming out every couple of years. There also clearly should be a Doctor Who. That stops it right there. The Doom spell kills this guy, and they changed how this guy works. And so, by killing himself on the first try, he would have gotten so many other spells. Job's done. He would have done so many other spells if he hadn't killed himself. That's the problem with Yogg Sagoth, or whatever that guy's called. Yogg Saron, Hope's End. It's not even Hope's End now, because when you play it, you have a good chance of surviving it. But yeah, the BBC should be releasing Doctor Who a full season every year. It should be like the US TV series. I cannot believe I'm making so little progress on this. Oh, that's because I had already finished that quest. When did I finish that quest? So I'm not paying attention, obviously. Alright, well, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe. I bet people were yelling at me, why do you keep playing this guy? You've already finished that quest. Like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.